So welcome, and thank you for agreeing to participate in this project. We very much appreciate your willingness to provide us with your experience about leaving Vietnam, coming to Canada. So I will begin by asking you your name, please.
My name is NGUYEN Huyen Chau. Yeah, I'm 71 years old.
Okay. And so I will begin by asking you about your life in Vietnam. So where were you born?
I was born in Thái Bình, North Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that anywhere near the capital?
It's around 100 kilometers from Hanoi.
Oh, okay. So some distance.
Yes.
Okay. And can you describe to me what your life was as a child? I'm assuming that you lived in Hanoi or close to Hanoi for a period of time?
Yes. I was 6 when we left Hanoi to move south.
Okay.
Yeah, to escape the communists.
Okay. You were 6 years old?
Yes.
Okay. And you left with your parents?
Yes, my parents and my eldest brother.
Okay.
Yes.
So you were a family of 4?
No, and then later, my mom and dad had more. So altogether, we were 7.
Oh, 7 children.
Yes, yeah, five boys and 2 girls.
Okay. So you moved to the south of Vietnam?
In 1954.
1954. So how long would you have lived in the south of Vietnam?
So
approximately.
yeah. Oh, we lived in South Vietnam from 1954 until 1975.
Okay. And in 1975, you would have been about what? How old?
Oh, when I was 27.
27 years old.
Yeah, and married with 2 young sons,
Oh.
3 years old and 8 months old.
Okay. And were you working at the time?
I was a housewife.
Okay.
Yeah, I stay home raising 2 young sons.
Okay. And your husband?
Yeah.
Was he employed?
Yeah, he's a helicopter pilot.
Okay.
Yeah, he's in the Vietnamese Air Force.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he had begun his career working with the Air Force and became a helicopter pilot?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So at some point there are great changes in Vietnam. By 1975 the economic and political situation is changing. Were you and your husband thinking about leaving the country at that time? My
husband, he's a volunteer to be a soldier, and he was trained in the state to be a helicopter pilot, and he was stationed far away from home. He was stationed in Da Nang.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and I live in Saigon with my parents and my 2 young sons. And he flew for the 219 King B squadron.
Okay.
Yeah, and he flew every 3 weeks, and then he got a week off to come home with family.
Okay. Okay. So then you remained in Vietnam for how many years then?
Yeah. So
what year would you have decided to leave the country?
Oh, it was in 1975. You know,
1975.
actually, we did not know anything about fleeing the country. We did not have any means.
Okay.
Yeah, to leave.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on happen. As I will talk about when you asking me questions.
Would you have had an opportunity to prepare before leaving the country?
No.
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 It was all very last minute.
No.
Okay.
We did not know. We did know nothing. My husband was, flying all the time.
Right.
Yeah, away from home, and I stay home with my mom and dad.
Right.
And we have no means. We had no idea,
Yeah.
where to go and how to leave the country, and
Right.
and if we stay or we leave. It's a very confusing situation.
Right. But I assume that at some point, you and your husband would have talked about making the decision to leave.
Yes,
Okay.
when the Viet Cong, the communists entering, that was entering Saigon,
Right.
and my husband told me that we have to accept if we are
Right.
apart,
Yes.
So he said, we all keep the address of my eldest brother in France, to contact, because he doesn't know where he will be stationed, and I'm at home. So we just, if anything happened, we have my brother in France to contact.
Right. So can you tell me about the time that you decided to leave the country? What happened during that period?
It was on the 28th of April.
Okay.
At around 6 o'clock, my husband came home after 3 consecutive days of a flying operation.
Right.
And then he got 1 day off to rest.
Okay.
So he came home. So he had a shower, a quick shower, and a little while to play with his 2 sons. And then we heard on the radio and TV that there's a curfew that all soldiers must present.
Okay.
So he had to leave,
Oh.
and he didn't even have a chance to eat the dinner with us.
Okay.
So he comforted me and promised me that he won't abandon us. I cried so much, when he left, and then off, he left on his scooter.
Okay. So he would have been asked by the Air Force to go back to his work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he did that, and then did you remain in Vietnam for a
In
period?
Saigon, yeah, at my dad. My dad, luckily, he was head of a treasury department, so he was granted a big villa with 24 hours police guard. So we lived with him, and the underground we live upper, and then the lower was my dad's office, and the underground is the government treasure cellar to keep the money. Yeah.
Okay. So you and your parents and your children would have left Vietnam.
And my 3 brothers and my 3 younger brothers. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So can you tell me about what that experience was like, leaving at that time?
Yeah. And it all happened as unexpectedly and surprisingly.
Okay.
Like it's on the at night, at night on the April 29th, the communist army kept bombarding into Saigon.
Yes.
Yeah, all night. And then in the evening of the 29th, and I heard, all the noise, from the old helicopter, and our house was shaken by the very, very loud noise of one helicopter right on the roof of our house.
Okay.
And then I heard all my 3 brothers screaming. I said, Dung is here. Dung is back. Dung is my husband.
Okay.
Yeah. So I rushed to the window, and I saw my husband in his uniform, wearing helmet, and he was controlling his helicopter on top of the tax office next to my dad's house.
Okay.
And he was hovering the helicopter, yeah, and then he signaled us, like, so we understand it's a leave, go, something like that. So my 3 youngest brothers, quickly, climb up the wall, divided our house and the tax office, and then they managed to bring my 2 young sons, put them into the helicopter and help me. I was last into the helicopter, and then my husband flew away. Okay. While my mom and dad was standing on the yard, my mom was crying and waving to us. I could never forget that day.
Your father must have been upset as well.
I'm sorry.
Your father must have been upset also.
Yeah, we was stunning, watching his children and grandchildren flew away,
Yes.
Not knowing, when we see each other again.
Right. Okay. So you leave with your 3 brothers? Okay. Your 2 sons and your husband in the helicopter.
Yeah.
Could you tell me where the helicopter went?
Yeah. Yeah, he flew just a short distance, just a few minutes, and then he landed to get some more gasoline.
Okay.
Yeah, and there we met General Huyen Chau. Yeah, yeah, and he got he waited for his turn and got gasoline, and then he flew away. Okay. Later on, I asked him, and he said he told me he did not know where to go, where to fly to. Okay. And then luckily he got a contact. He got a contact with the American 7th Fleet aircraft carrier, and they they led him, to where the ship was, and then he landed on, that is I remember the Hancock aircraft carrier. Okay. Yeah, and so when he landed on that the ship, and then we had to leave everything in the helicopter, with hand up, and walk out of the helicopter, and then the American pushed my husband's helicopter down into the sea. Yeah, and it was fate, that later on a Newsweek magazine showed the picture of the helicopter with the tail, with the number 595. It was my husband's helicopter. Oh. Can you believe it?
So there was a picture of the helicopter.
Yeah, it is
sea.
His very one, and we were among of the few very first helicopter who landed on the aircraft. But it was us, lucky to have my husband helicopter, picture. Yeah. And was on Newsweek on the cover.
So it would have appeared in a Newsweek magazine of 1975?
Yes, and my son Nick, he still have it.
Oh,
He still
still
have
has
that
the picture.
cover, yes.
Oh. Can you tell me how old your sons were at the time?
He was 3, Nick was 3,
Oh.
yeah, and the youngest one was 8 months old.
Wow, so very young children
Yes.
at the time. Okay. So you're on the aircraft carrier with your husband and your children and the 3 brothers. Can you describe to me what happened at that time?
Yeah. So and then later on, there are a lot of people, a lot of helicopter pilots, landed on that ship, and then so they clean us up by spraying, spraying something, to protect us and
Right.
to protect the ship.
Right.
Yeah, and then later on we have to line up to have lunch.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and we left in a hurry, unexpectedly. My little son, we did not have any diaper with him. We did not have any bottle or milk, and nothing.
Right.
And at that time I was wearing pajama because it's in the early morning.
Right.
So
Quite an experience.
yeah, it is. It's a very sad experience.
Yeah. Can I ask you, how much time did you spend on the ship?
On the, like, to tell you the very truth, I was busy with my 2 kids,
Okay.
and then the little boy cried because he did not have his bottle, and he had to drink. He used to drink warm milk, and now he had to drink by spoon and the cold milk, and he couldn't drink it, and he's frustrated and he cried a lot. So I just have no idea about the time and everything, but I think the next day the ship stopped in Subic Bay, Philippines. Yeah. Yes, Philippines, yeah. And then we were transferred to a camp over there. And
A refugee camp?
yeah, a refugee camp, yeah. Yeah.
So all of you would have been in the refugee camp, the brothers,
Yes.
the husband, yourself, and the children.
Yes.
Do you recall how much time you would have spent in Subic Bay?
3 days,
Oh.
yeah. And while we were there, my husband met his 2 students, air cadet, and they they asked him, please, take them, the two young men, into our family. So it is, yeah. So yeah,
he agreed
we
to
have
do
to go.
that?
Yes.
Okay. So you were in Subic Bay for 3 days?
Yeah, 3 days, and then they flew us. To Camp Pendleton.
Oh, Camp Pendleton,
Pendleton,
California.
California. Yes.
Oh, so you went directly from Subic Bay to California?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm assuming that you would have stayed in a military base in Camp Pendleton?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's in the valley, and the American government built many tents, for refugee.
Okay.
Yeah, and we stay there for 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Americans were well prepared to
Yes.
welcome you
Yes. Yeah.
to Camp Pendleton?
Yeah.
Okay. So the family and the 3 brothers spent 2 months
Yes.
in Camp Pendleton?
Yeah.
And can you tell me what happened after that?
We were waiting for a private sponsor,
Oh.
and my husband did not like that idea.
Oh.
Yeah, he said that he doesn't want to stay in the United States. When he heard about there's a Canadian delegation came to Camp Pendleton to interview refugee, to bring refugee to Canada.
Okay.
So he told me, and he told my brothers, plus his two students, that he decided to apply to go to Canada. So they all follow him. So they all went to apply to go to Canada.
Okay. So do you recall at the time when your husband met with the Canadian representatives? Did the representatives meet everybody or just your husband?
Oh, one at a time,
One
yes.
at a time.
But I was with the boys. They interviewed only my husband.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah. And each of my brothers and the two students of my husband.
Okay. They would have been interviewed.
Yes.
Also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you didn't need to be interviewed.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then at that time, your husband meets with the Canadian delegation, and I'm assuming that they provide him with the opportunity to come to Canada.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you had spent 2 months there, so after 2 months, what happened? Were you on your way to Canada?
Yes. We left Camp Pendleton on July the 7th, 1975, and we stopped in Vancouver and en route to Regina, Saskatchewan.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you arrived in Regina, Saskatchewan in July.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you describe what were your first impressions when you arrived there?
Yeah. When we got off the plane, we were so happy. You know, we said, "Oh, we breathe freedom," and then we were very happy to have the officer from Manpower, Canada Manpower, greeted us at the airport.
Okay.
Yes, and then a reporter from CBC,
Yes.
came and talked to us, and later on interview us, And I have some picture my husband took when they interviewed me.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you arrived there in your destination, where did you stay?
The officer took us to Georgia Hotel.
Okay.
Yeah, so where my husband and I and the two boys stay in the rooms, a large room for our family, and each of my brother and the other two students, each of them single, to live in one single room in Georgia Hotel.
Okay.
And then we had breakfast and lunch and dinner down in the restaurant downstairs.
Okay.
Yeah, right there.
How many days would you have stayed in the hotel? Do you recall?
Yeah. We while we stay in the hotel, the officer from Manpower helped us to look for a house.
Okay.
Since we love to live together with my three brothers. Yeah. So after a month, yes, I think after a month, we got to move into a house. Yeah.
Okay. And what was that experience like, moving into a house there?
Yeah, we are very happy, even though we miss our home, but we know that we will build our new life here.
Right.
And my son will have opportunity to go to school, and my three brothers will have a chance to go back to school, and we will get a job and rebuild our life here.
Right. So you establish yourself in this house in your destination. Your children were still young then,
Yes.
as far as I know.
Yes.
So would you have stayed at home to care for them?
Yes, I stay at home, care for my two young children, while my husband work. Okay. My husband and my three brothers and the two, they all work they all get job from the manpower, help them to get job.
So they quickly found employment.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Job is a laborer,
Yes.
but they happy to work.
Yes, right. To make a living.
Yes, to make a living. Yeah,
For the family.
to live life. Yeah.
And how long did you live at your destination?
Yeah, we stay in Georgia Hotel for a month, and then moved to the house, and we stayed until the end of October, and then my husband decided to move to Calgary because there is no opportunity for him to return to flying. And then he got friends from Calgary telling him that there's more opportunity to fly again in Calgary. So we moved to Calgary.
Okay. Did everybody go? Your brothers?
Yes, they all follow us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you arrived in Calgary, I'm assuming that you would have looked for a residence
Yes.
to live again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you obviously found a place to live.
Yes, an officer from manpower again.
Okay.
Yeah, help us. At that time, it's not too hard to get a place. So we got a basement. In the basement, we rented a basement, and then my three brothers, they have their own apartment.
Okay.
Yeah, very quickly.
Okay.
Yes.
And so what happened? Was your husband able to find employment in Calgary?
Yeah, he sent his resume, to different company,
Yeah.
But we had no reference, and we are so new in the country, so that there is no hope for him to fly again. And then he said that he has to go back to school. He doesn't want to be a laborer for the rest of his life. So he worked day. He worked that night. I'm sorry. He found a job. Work at night is a janitor at night at Co-op, and he goes to school full time at SAIT, that means Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. Yeah, since he has a family, to care for, so he just takes 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So after 2 years, he graduated with honor, which I'm very proud of him. And after that, he got a job to work for Chevron. Yeah, he was the geophysicist.
Okay.
Yes, and after 2 years, he continued to work to study at night course, and then he got his master's degree.
Oh. Yeah. Okay. And during that period, he continued to work at Chevron.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And how long would you have lived in Calgary?
Oh, I lived in Coeurs since 1975 until 1994, and we moved to Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And how was it that you decided to leave Calgary to come to Montreal?
At that time, the economic was so down, and my husband lost a job. And then in Montreal, my brother-in-law, he owns a computer company. So he asked my husband to come and help him to run the company. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So you packed up your belongings and moved from Calgary to Montreal.
Yes. And at that time, Nick was at Queen's University, and then the youngest one stayed in Calgary with my younger brother. Yeah, and he continued his study there.
Okay. I'll take you back to when you first arrived in Canada. Were you comfortable with the English language or the French language, or did you speak mostly Vietnamese at the time?
I'm very lucky because English is my first language.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so I can understand. I can speak not fluently,
Okay.
but I can get by, and I can get a job.
Okay.
I got interview. My first job was with Safeway. I was a cashier
Okay.
with Safeway, and I sent my two sons to daycare. My husband went to school.
Okay.
And then dropping the boys at the daycare. I would work just part-time at Safeway, and then I pick up the boy when home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was your husband proficient in English when you first arrived in Canada?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, so he was comfortable with the English language as well?
He was a soldier. He was a volunteer to be a soldier, and he was trained in the Vietnamese academy school, just like West Point here. Okay. So he was well prepared, for a lot of things.
Okay. Okay, so you arrive in Montreal, and your husband was able to work with your brother-in-law.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when you first arrived in Montreal, your experience would have been probably similar. You would have looked for a residence to establish yourself. Yes.
When I moved to that, I stayed with my sister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They have a large home in NGUYEN, so we stay there temporarily before we get our own apartment.
Okay. And when you said when you were in Calgary, you were still getting support from Employment and Immigration Canada.
I'm sorry?
When you said when you arrived in Calgary,
yes.
Were you still getting some assistance or support from Immigration Canada, from Employment and Immigration Canada?
No, we all got jobs. We all work. We were on our own.
So you were independent.
And we are very proud of that. Yes,
okay.
Yeah. We work hard to support ourselves.
Right.
Yes.
So when you arrived in Montreal, it was the same situation.
Yes.
You didn't need any support or any help from. Okay. When you arrived in Montreal, obviously there were two languages, French and English. Did you choose to learn French?
Yes.
Okay.
I went to take the French for 1 year. Yeah.
Okay.
But I still prefer to speak English.
Okay.
Because I think I'm more comfortable and more fluent in English than in French.
Okay. What about your husband? Did he learn French at all?
Yes, he did learn some French.
Okay.
But he's just like me. We like to
speak English.
Yes.
And your sons?
Yeah. Oh, I sent both of my sons in Calgary from kindergarten to a French immersion school. So they both fluent in French and English. Yes.
Okay. Good. Okay. So I would like to ask you what happened to your parents who were left behind in Vietnam.
My dad passed away a year after the fall of Saigon, after we left. And my mother stayed with my grandparents. Okay. And then later she was sponsored by my eldest brother in France. Okay. So she was in France in 1983, yeah. Okay. So she stayed in France with my eldest brother and his family for almost 2 years, and then my husband and I sponsor her back to Canada because there are many of us here in Calgary. Okay. Yeah, and she's very happy to be in Canada.
So when your mother first arrived, she joined you in Calgary?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she stayed with you there, and then obviously she would have come to Montreal with you.
Yes, she just went to Montreal for a visit, and then she stayed there. So I still have 3 brothers in Calgary.
Okay.
Yes.
So she could have got support from your brother.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But she's very independent. she did not want to stay home. She worked for the priest at the church, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, prepare meals for him. Yeah, and so she can go to church every day. Yeah, and she like it, you know.
Okay.
And she's very proud of doing so.
Okay. I would also like to ask you, when you first arrived in Canada, I assume that you had to get used to the temperature, because it would have been very different from
Yes,
Vietnam.
yes, indeed, yes. We arrived in Regina in July, and it was very hot.
Right.
So we said, "Oh, it's so nice." But we heard that in Canada we have snow in the winter, and we are so excited, you know, anxious to touch the snow, to experience, you know, our first winter. So when we moved to Coeurs at the end of October, there wasn't any snow,
Right.
and then not until November. So we saw our first snow in Calgary, and there's a picture of our first winter with the snow. Yeah.
So you were able to adapt to the
Yes,
weather.
yeah. We well, at first we found it too cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and then we surprised that, you know, everybody still go out,
Right.
and they work, and then, you know, they dress warm, and then, you know, business as usual. So, you know, like we get used to it. You know,
Right.
we learn to adapt to the cold weather.
Right. Okay. So at some point, as you said, you established yourself in Montreal. Would you have had opportunities to associate with other Vietnamese individuals while you were, whether it was in Calgary or in Montreal?
Yes. You know, I still stay in touch with friends from Regina,
Okay.
and even though there's only 2 months, yeah, as they have some Canadian friends, and then in Calgary we stayed in touch, and then in Montreal, you know, I got involved in community activities. You know, I sang for charity. I sing for association.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's my hobby. Yeah.
Okay. So you would have participated in the activities and the festivals and
Yes.
the different celebrations that would have gone on in the Vietnamese community.
Yeah, and I also work as a travel agent.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where was that, in Montreal?
In Montreal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For you know a relative of mine, you know, for my aunt, she owns a travel agency, and she hired me. Yeah, and I was trained, you know, to be a travel agent, you know, to go on tour with her.
Oh.
Yes.
And how long would you have worked as a travel agent?
Oh, we've been since 1993.
Okay.
And up until now, I still go on tour with her.
Oh, you're still
sometime.
working?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. My other question would be what were your impressions of when you obviously you met a lot of Canadians coming to Canada in Calgary and Montreal, and when you first arrived, what were your impressions of when you met with Canadians?
Oh, you know, I found the Canadians are very friendly and very helpful. So I'm very happy, to tell you the truth. I'm very happy that in Calgary, in Regina, in Montreal, you know, we have a happy life. We have a lot of friends. We make good friends with Canadians as well as Vietnamese.
Right. Would you have sought their help to get used to, because it would have been a very different culture than the culture that you would have lived in Vietnam. I'm sure you would have had to learn about different things.
Yes, yeah. We learn fast, and we adapt very fast and very well too. And we love Canadian food, and I love to learn how to cook Canadian meals for my for my 2 young sons.
Right.
You know, they went to daycare and then they eat the Canadian food, and you know, they love the Canadian food.
Okay. Your children, your 2 sons, are now adults, I assume?
Yes,
And
one is 47, and the youngest is 45.
okay. So they would have pursued their education?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Nick graduated from Queens,
Okay.
yeah, with a master's degree, and Tony's in Calgary. You know, he's a bachelor and he works for union.
He works for a union.
Yeah.
And what kind of work does your other son do?
Nick?
Yeah.
Yeah, he works for NATO.
Oh,
yeah,
he works for NATO?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
archivist, yes.
Oh, and has he been doing that work for a long time?
Yes, yeah. He was in Ottawa. He worked for the federal,
Okay.
and then he found this job, and he was lucky, you know, to be chosen to get this job.
Okay. I assume that you all became Canadian citizens?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. I think after 5 years,
Okay.
you know, we all became, you know, Canadian, and we are very proud and very happy to be Canadian.
Great. Okay. So you settled in Montreal, and you were able to find employment, and your sons were able to pursue their education and get work. So at this point in your life, you say you're still involved with a travel agency?
Yes, you know, we go on tour, not too often, but twice or 3 times a year. Yeah.
Okay. And can I ask you about your husband?
Yeah. Oh, my husband, in 2016, he got a minor stroke,
Oh.
and then following a massive stroke.
Oh.
So it was very sad, and he was paralyzed, you know, half body, and now he's at the Institut de Gériatrie de Montréal.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So he's receiving care
Yes.
because of this situation.
Yes. And I come and visit him almost every day.
Okay. The other question I would like to ask you is, if you had an opportunity, if someone provided you with an opportunity to talk to young Canadians about what your experience was like to leave Vietnam and to establish yourself and create a new life for yourself in Canada, what do you think you would like to share with them?
I like to share with them our own experience, our own feeling, our own happiness, and our pride. Yeah, and I want to tell them that they are very, very lucky. Yeah, to be Canadian, to live in a very prosperous, peaceful country.
Right.
It's a great country.
Right. Okay.
And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Heart of Freedom for giving me the chance to tell our story of journey to freedom. And most of all, we would like to extend our sincere thanks and deep gratitude to the government and the Canadian people for their generosity, their warm welcome, and their kindness taking us into their country.
Great.
And I thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Great. Okay, so you brought some memories of what your experience was like. So could you first talk about this picture, please?
Yes. This is my husband,
Okay.
Captain Zoom. This picture was taken when he was a lieutenant.
Okay.
Yeah, lieutenant, and he was in his helicopter. And this is my son Nick. Yeah, he's holding his dad's picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so your husband would have been a helicopter pilot for, do you remember for how many years he was?
Well, yeah, he was trained, and he left Vietnam for Texas to be trained as a helicopter pilot in 1967.
Okay.
Yes.
And
He was trained for 16 months.
okay.
Yes.
And but his career as a helicopter pilot would have lasted how long?
Not until 1975.
75.
Yes.
Okay, good. And then we. Okay, and then we have another picture that you brought. If you could talk about that one, please.
Yeah. This picture was taken when my husband got a leave to return home to visit his family, and this is my eldest son when he was a year and a half.
Okay.
And this is Nick, my eldest son, when we was in Calgary, our first, in November,
Okay.
you know, experienced our first winter in Calgary, Canada.
Right. Okay, great. Okay, good, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's really good. Thanks.